Good. How about you?
Good, thanks. I think Brittany's going to be dialing in here any second, and really this is her meeting. I just wanted to listen in.
Oh, hey, perfect. Well, nice to meet you, Pearce.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, glad you're here. How was your weekend?
It was good. Yours?
Good. How are you guys doing with reopening phases? I checked out the website, and so clearly you're back into it, but how's it working out for the beer tenders?
It's working out okay. I am a little concerned just that they're now having to manage a newly anxious society. And, you know, people people tend to avoid conflict with each other, yet they have no problem with conflict with a service worker, whether it's, you know, at the airport or at a bar. And so what we found is there have been a couple of incidents where some people are more anxious about social distancing than others. And when people aren't respecting each other's personal space and that sort of thing, rather than speaking with each other and figuring it out, they then come and complain to the bartenders. And so it's one more thing that, you know, we're having to watch out for.
Sure. That's got to be
interesting.
That's got to be difficult. And all of these folks should be used to it by now, but you've got all the appropriate signage up. You've got the stickers on the floor. There's only so much you can do. And then on the same note, you hear these stories about Colorado, Ohio, some of these other states where the ABC is doing these spot checks, and they're going in there and they're seeing one or two isolated incidents of non-social distancing, and they write up the brewery. So you as an owner obviously have to be not only careful in doing all you can, but it's almost minute to minute due diligence of the beer tenders, making sure to politely ask people to space.
Yep. That's very true. Very true. So I see Brittany joined.
Oh, hey, Brittany. No audio and no video. You folks are just going to listen to me today. This is no fun.
Where is?
She just.
I can turn on the video. Yeah, I thought.
Just lost her. Oh, yeah, there you go. All right. Thank you. I was feeling lonely over here.
I understand.
No.
I'll
be respectful of your time.
Up lunch, so I didn't want you to be watching me eat.
No, that's fine. I definitely want to be respectful of your time, Pearce. So as soon as Brittany jumps back on, we'll get started. And just so you know, I've got a PDF that we're going to walk through, but it's a loose agenda. I want you two to get the most out of it. I just want you to know that you'll get something afterwards, so you don't have to be furiously taking notes or anything like that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Perfect.
She just texted me, said Zoom is forcing an update before she can log in.
Oh, is that right? That's too bad. Yeah, I've been to a couple breweries around here that have done a good job. I live right outside of Denver, and so, I mean, like your area, it's a hot spot, obviously, for craft brewers. And, you know, there's what's been told to the craft brewers by the governor, and then there's individual interpretation. And I feel like some are doing it better than others. I feel comfortable going into some breweries. They escort you to a table. The tables are distanced. You wear masks to and from the filling stations. However, it's just what you said. People are anxious. They've been pent up for 3 months, and the brewery was their space to kind of let loose. It's kind of hard to put restrictors on them at that point.
Yep.
Hey guys, this is Brittany.
Hey,
for some
Brittany.
reason the Zoom meeting is not, it keeps kicking me out, so I just dialed in. So I will keep trying on Zoom, but.
Yeah, sorry about that. Zoom can be kind of temperamental that way, but I was just telling Pearce that the little bit of slides that I put together today, I'll send both of you. So please don't feel like taking crazy notes. And this is your meeting. I want to be respectful of your time. I have some thoughts, but I also want you to get the most out of it for you and your team. So we'll go ahead and get started. So you can't see any of the screens, but you can hear us audio-wise, Brittany, is that right?
Exactly, and I'm trying right now to load it again to get to log into the actual video meeting, and we'll see if that works. But
got it.
But yeah, I can hear you just fine. I just dialed in on my phone, so the computer audio was not working. The video loaded for a second, and then it kicked me out. So I will continue to try, but I will listen in the meantime.
I understand. I certainly appreciate your time. I had a good time looking through all of your digital and social efforts this weekend, and certainly appreciate you hearing some of my thoughts about it. My goal is really to give you folks maybe some thought starters on what you can do internally yourselves. And then, of course, I'm a resource if I can ever be of service, but that's not the point of the call. So I really like to call this discoverability because I feel like now more than ever, breweries need to stand out and they need to be discoverable, because it's very obvious that everybody is doing all their searching and their researching on mobile, whether that's looking at social sites, social channels. I would suggest mobile friendly and mobile responsive websites. These are the two main channels for people to feel confident making the choice between your brewery and somebody else. And I'm not talking about Joe, who's always there on Friday. That, you know, the loyalists are great, but they're fewer and further between nowadays. There's really no place for loyalty when you've got over 8,000 breweries. Now, I think loyalty, I used to work in loyalty at Jim Beam, and Maker's Mark had some of the most loyal fans you've ever encountered. But there's so much choice out there. I think we need to be respectful of that very sensitive relationship we have with people. And not, yay! Wow. Thanks for joining. Sorry about the hassle. I think we need to just be respectful of the relationship we have with them and not expect too much. And the loyalty programs have clearly evolved since those days. So mobile discoverability, I'm all in favor of 3 new customers for every 1. And I think that this really needs to be our goal, because the current customer base is going to turn over, as you know, in the 2 or 3 years that you folks have been around. Like, you've seen people come and go. Now, it's going to even accelerate moving forward if you're not offering something differentiated. And sure, you have the great beers, but it's also the experience and the relationship and the opportunity that you give them that everybody else around you doesn't. You can be friends with all these folks in the area, and the brewers community is a tight one for sure, but you need to be competitive and strategic in that way, in grabbing 3 of their customers for every current one that's sitting at your tap room. So that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today, is how we really focus on digital channels. We really want you to be discoverable using the tools that you already have available to you. Brittany had asked for us to take a look at social, because I believe she's taken over some of those responsibilities. And so we can double down our time in that. But are there any other areas that I need to make sure to cover in my agenda to make this of best use to your time? If not, we can just kind of be fluid about it and hit on an area. And I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our existing channels are pretty limited to social. I mean, I think we're, trying to grow that and certainly looking at other options right now. But the work up to this point has really just been social.
Yeah, and you've done an incredible job. I'm not trying to stroke you folks. I believe that the posting that you're doing is really tight. I do have some suggestions about the balance of content, and the channels that you're using and really just maximizing the time that you're putting against it, leveraging it, kind of syndicating that content to get the most eyeballs possible. So we'll go through these and just stop when there's something of interest, or tell me to speed it up if you're already familiar and you just want to move on. So sorry, Pearce, I didn't realize you'd be here today. Otherwise, your name would be on this slide too. My name's Scott. I've worked with some fun companies, and I manage a company called Market Your Craft. And these companies for which I've worked, I've created some incredible relationships. And so at one point in the last couple of years, we all just decided to do some work together. And so I do not claim to have all of the experience, but I'm a good project manager, and I understand how beverage works from working on the inside from a marketing perspective and being an assistant brewer for BJ's restaurants. I'm kind of familiar with the industry and I'm passionate about it. So basically what we do is we just provide tools and resources for small breweries, wineries, and distilleries, the same tools that these big guys had access to. The breweries sometimes just don't feel like they have the kind of support or horsepower that they need in order to stand out, but there's an awful lot of low-hanging fruit. So that's what we do. We talk to folks, we give them a perspective. If they want to do some work with us, we put together SWAT teams and we make it happen. We're pretty nimble that way. And I'm always fermenting something. Right now it's a hazy, and I've got a barrel-aged imperial stout. Weldworks is a brewery right here, and they released a 5-gallon recipe of their imperial stout, and so I decided to try that out and barrel age it for 3 or 4 months so that it's ready for fall, maybe as a celebration once we get past all of this nonsense. All right, so jumping into your website, I spent a little bit of time here because I really thought you were doing a good job, but I wanted to help you take it to just the next level. So it's all about confidence, because these folks who haven't experienced you before, they don't want to have like a regret after visiting a brewery or making the decision to visit a brewery. And so a website, in addition to the social channels that Brittany's managing, like those two things give them a split-second quick opinion about what Commonhouse is and whether I can see myself sitting at a table with my friends, my family, my girls, my guy friends, whatever it is, enjoying myself. And so these digital efforts are ambassadors for you, and we really need to leverage that. Your mobile site is tight. I have nothing really major to say about it. It's very clean. I think the homepage can do a little bit more work for you. I think the homepage is a little flat, just in that the 3 areas of content are very well presented. The photos are very professional, but it's not the personality that I get from the rest of your social efforts. It feels a little business, to be honest. And please don't take these things as criticisms. It's more so like craft beer is fun, and I guess I saw your website being more of a business than a hobby and a passionate pursuit.
You're not. So to be clear, you're not going to say anything that's going to upset us. We're actually in a transition here between operating partners. So I'm stepping into the business. A partner has taken a lesser role, stepping away. And actually, this was all something he held very close to the vest. And as I look at where we stand after 2.5 years of operating, very, very bluntly, I will say we have had a failure to launch, in my opinion. And so we are looking to reuse this crisis, if you will. I have a mantra: never waste a good crisis.
Yeah.
So we're going to use this as a way to relaunch Commonhouse. And in doing so, Brittany's now moving in, taking over social media, probably get involved more in the web here shortly. So there's definitely going to be, and if you were to look back in social media posting, you will see a changeover in voice, if you will, across the last 2 to 3 months. And that's going to, and so this is all, interacting with you is all about two things. One, getting thoughts and ideas on what we need to be doing better, what possibilities we have for the road forward. And then two, obviously if there's ways, as we evaluate what can we do in-house versus where should we look to partner with others to, where there's outsized ROI on that investment, then, we'll do that as well. But you're not going to say anything that's going to hurt the two of our feelings.
Appreciate that, Pearce. That's helpful. Also appreciate the transparency. Times of transition are opportunities for sure if you look at the glass half full. So good on you for having that spirit. All right. So with that as a backdrop, and that's very helpful. Again, the site is very clean. What I notice is just little things. I'm a marketing guy, so I caveat a lot of this. But again, the personality, I think we would agree, probably more of the voice is being reflected right now in social than on the website. I think each beer is kind of like a child. In a brewer's perspective, there's that pride there, right? And there's something about each one of those beers that stands out. What was the motivation? Why that mash bill? Why'd you double down on the hops? Was it a happy mistake? These types of stories are what need to come out to the customers to a certain extent. And you can argue that small business doesn't have the means or the time to brand, but I truly believe that over time, as you continue to build momentum in business, the little stories that you tell now help shape that brand in the future. You're going to see the ones that resonate with people, and then all of a sudden you're going to have this true north in 2 or 3 years when you're looking at regional expansion, perhaps a second location. When that happens, you have to have a brand, because then you have to worry about the consistency a mile from your brewery or out of state. What is your sales team saying out of state when they're further removed from the brewery? So anyways, I'm a big fan of brand, and the stories that we can tell now will inform that moving forward. I don't know that the Untapped is a necessary evil sometimes, and if you subscribe to it, you might even have digital boards that are automatically updated. These sync between the website, and they sync with the board. They even sync with the presentation on Facebook. I get the efficiency of Untapped, but it just comes up a little short telling that story, right? What was in the brewer's head when he or she was coming up with this recipe? That kind of falls short in this presentation. So help people to tell the difference between the beers from a style perspective, and equally important is to reflect some attitude. Have them say, hey, did you know? Have them order the beer and tell their friends, hey, did you know that they used 11 pounds of hops in this particular beer? Isn't that crazy? I mean, who does that? Anyhow, the awards are well deserved, and I think they're appropriately spotlighted or highlighted on the website. The presentation is very mobile friendly, so the structure, the foundation of the website is there. Shopify, I think you've actually done a great job with it. This is one of the better Shopify sites I've seen. We have a preference for WordPress just because seems like it's got a little bit more traction and a little bit more flexibility with plugins and some best practices with e-commerce, but you're doing a great job with this. All right. So again, make it easy, because don't expect people to go deeper than the homepage. And so if you were a customer who had never visited Commonhouse before, what message would you get from your homepage, especially on the mobile view of it? Make it go a little further. Have some call to action. You can have those 3 categories of content, and that's fine. The photos are beautiful, but call them on it. This is what we do. We see you at a seat at our bar. Now, you would not obviously not say that, but it needs to be that direct. Here's what we do. Here's how we're different from all of the other brewery choices that you have, and why I can see you sitting at my bar. A couple other pages that we wanted to highlight. Love the relationship with Florey's, especially not having the background. I had to do some digging, and what a well-respected restaurateur. So to have that relationship, especially during the pandemic, is a win for sure. I like public relations because it's free advertising, and you do a little bit, but we're going to talk about that next. These are the kind of relationships that you really need to celebrate. And if you've got 10, 20 media contacts there in the area or regionally, take advantage of it. Send them a quick 1-page press release. And I know a lot of these things take time, so I'm not trying to oversimplify it. Everybody wears a lot of hats at a brewery, but how I would prioritize messaging is do the free stuff first. You get the extra attention that you deserve, plus you reach new audiences, not only that media's audience, but also Florey's audience. So I like the Shopify site. The Shopify site, being able to sell beer, pick it up for curbside, you're ahead of most, to be honest. A lot of the breweries we've talked to during this pandemic just don't get it, how critical having this online sales channel for pickup, kind of contactless sales. It's an extra income stream that they're just missing out on. I wasn't thrilled with the events calendar. The events calendar isn't displaying properly on my phone, and that might just be my phone, but my phone's pretty up to date. So I had a recommendation about the plugin for Shopify that you can use. It's called Loxy, but we'll get to that. The Connect was very straightforward. So again, a very tight site, just a little flat on the personality side. You don't have too much content in there, so you've clearly prioritized the more important content in smaller kind of snackable chunks for mobile, and that's exactly what you need to do. Having, the luxury of time or money or talent internally, you folks do a great job with the photos on social. Let's pull some of those better photos over to the website to create that same experience on the website. There's an opportunity for visuals, whether that's static or video, to help those customers see themselves at the brewery. So I think, again, from a business perspective, you're killing it, but from a magnet perspective, you're coming up a little short with the website. So clear calls to action. The chatbot, as active as you are on Facebook, the chatbot that you can install for Spotify or WordPress is a direct connection, a direct link to your messaging platform on Facebook. And so open up that channel, give people who are searching in real time quick means to ask if you folks are open during the pandemic. And then you probably know this, Brittany, but Facebook has bots, and these bots can actually answer questions on behalf of Commonhouse. So you could identify 10 questions that are most frequently asked. What are your hours? What's the situation with dine-in versus outside seating? Is there curbside? Do you offer local delivery? Whatever everybody's calling in about, you can create a bot that basically uses those keywords and then says, hey, it sounds like you're asking about our hours of operation. This week, we've got these hours closed Monday and Tuesday, or whatever the case may be.
And you say those are Facebook bots?
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that in Facebook. You can also do it in Twitter.
Okay. And you mentioned 2 other chat bots, and what would those be for? Connecting to the same social channels, or like text chat bots?
There's one you can use through the website. Would be a plugin that would direct it through our Facebook Messenger. So they could ask the question via the website, and it would show up on our Facebook Messenger.
Okay, sorry. All right.
No, that's exactly right. Thank you. So it's just, I don't want to create extra work, but if you're saying that most of your effort has been put against social and Facebook's kind of the lead horse in that race, then let's funnel all other inquiries from your disparate sources to Facebook to give Brittany and team one environment to respond in.
Got it.
And then those bots are just, that's gravy. Like it'll help Brittany to only focus on the more complicated questions, and the 90% of questions that everybody's asking are automated.
Yeah, it just picks up, basically it's like an FAQ that they know the answers to based off of keywords.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's a much better way to put it. Yeah. So the last one on this one is just a secure certificate, and your Shopify site is obviously secure, but it costs $75 depending on who your registrar is per year for the site to be encrypted. And not to be geeky and technical, but Google actually favors those sites that are secure, and it was subtle before and it's obvious now that they rank those higher than others. So for $75, it's peace of mind. A lot of people still have privacy concerns, and if you're asking for an email address, this just gives them, further reassurance that you're above board. So that's easy. That's low-hanging fruit. All right. Any questions about mobile? That's really the last one on the mobile conversation before we get into press. Google, I'm a fan of, especially during the pandemic, of virtual tastings. And so we actually put together a Google app where you could ask Google for a virtual tasting. And this was not our idea. There was a winery that did this, Wenti, and they did a good job. And it's somewhat cheesy, but they've got the Australian accent, and they've got a list of different prompts that basically takes you through a tasting that can be prearranged for purchase, a package that you can purchase. You can have it sent to your house because wineries obviously can do that. And then you can have this virtual tasting at your convenience in your pajamas. Now, breweries have done tastings, happy hours, things like this. All of that, again, is just about lifestyle and trying to meet the customer where they are, either mentally or, in this case with the pandemic, physically. So use these photos. Socially, again, your plated food and the cans, those are gorgeous photos. Whoever does that, if that's you, Brittany, or whoever has done those, that it's perfect. But they also need to see the flip side of things, which is here's somebody cheersing, or here's a group socially distanced outside just laughing. All of these things really matter right now. And so take advantage of the channels that you have, but maybe balance it a little more. Balance it 50-50 or 40 product, 60 lifestyle, because people can buy a beer anywhere, but they can't see themselves laughing like that couple on the outside patio unless they're at Commonhouse. So let's
Yeah,
use that.
absolutely.
Yeah, let's use that to our advantage. And again, you're still on the early side of this. Most breweries, wineries, distilleries obviously focus a lot of time first on the product, second on the tasting room experience, and then third on everything else. And small business has to prioritize it that way, but you're also not going to get the new business 3x the current business if you don't have the magnets that are dragging or attracting people to your brewery. So facility tours, I saw some amazing photos of the brewery, and the outdoor space is so well done. And so just imagine yourself doing like a walk around. There's the Google 360s that you can do. A buddy or friends or family might have a drone. It doesn't have to be like Hollywood quality. People just want you to be real and transparent. And so to have a little bit of fun with an overhead of a socially distanced evening with maybe one of the bands playing in the common space, like that goes a long way. And what we've seen is that still the video is much more engaging and gets much more attention than the static, regardless of the quality of it. So take a look at that opportunity to walk through the fermenters. And I've seen some of your posts of the brewers dancing and whatnot. It's super funny. I'd play that up even more. The behind the scenes is what people really they latch on to that because you're real. That's what independent is right now. It's real versus mass. All right. I'm telling you what you already know. So this is the last page here. Make yourselves more discoverable with a homepage that works a little harder. Reflect the customer voice. Maybe even ask for reviews of the products. And this gives them some say, good or bad. People want to know that it's not just you saying that our beer is the best. These people, and I don't like Yelp. Don't get me wrong. Yelp is pay to play, and it just feels wrong to me in a lot of ways. But reviews on your site, that's very different. Reviews in Facebook, that's very different. Loxy, again, is the event calendar for Shopify. The events calendar is the name of the actual plugin for WordPress, but it's got a beautiful presentation of events on mobile and desktop. You can play up the venue with video and photos, food trucks that come in. I just think you want to engage people a little bit more, especially on mobile with your events. We talked about lifestyle photos and tours, and then Untapped, maybe see if it can display a little more information. It's a little limiting right now. Good, makes sense? Right on.
Yep,
keep going.
definitely.
Just to be respectful of time, we'll cruise through these next ones. Like I said about press helps other audiences outside of your immediate circle learn more about you. And you've had some great press, whether it was the promotion of the brewer or hiring last year of a brewer. These things have grabbed a little bit of attention with the industry and industry writers that you might not have gotten on your own. So again, I love free advertising, and public relations is definitely one of those. What we see, again, the site is beautiful, but the news is a little outdated. I don't think it's an accurate reflection of everything that's happened in the time since you've been opened. And Pearce, you said the previous gentleman kind of held this close to chest, so I completely get it. So this is an easy way to have constantly updated information on your site, because if you reflect your newsletters as a blog post, if you reflect the work that you're doing with the the charitable effort that you most recently had and the giveaways, things like this, all of that could be repurposed. You don't need to write new copy. It doesn't need to be edited and things like that. It's just a direct pull from what you're already doing. Plus it shows that there's more up-to-date content on this site, because obviously you've done something important since November 16th, 2017. I sent this out the other day. This is just a sample, and please understand that it had some placeholder copy in there, because I don't know what it's like on the inside of Commonhouse, but using a standard template like this just makes it easy to plug in one or two quotes from Pearce or other team members. You have one area of copy that basically tells the food and beverage or the industry writer what they need to know. And when formatted this way, you probably get it. Like, writers and journalists want it this way so they can quickly scan if it's worth their readers' time. So having a template like this that you can execute for once a month beer releases, or it doesn't have to be on a schedule, it just needs to be used. So consider it. Way to get yourself some additional eyeballs. Like Brewbound, I love those guys. Even though there's been obviously in the last year a bit of a shakeup, they've got good editors and they're very receptive to craft. And so shooting over a press release formatted in the way we just saw to those folks will necessarily get picked up. And you've obviously done some work with some local media outlets here in the recent weeks. Okay. So again, understand what's newsworthy about what's happening day to day. Try and identify that list of contacts. I like 20. 20 seems like a good number to me. And vet those. Make sure that they're open to receiving a press release from you. And friends of the brewery will always write favorably about you. So whenever you have something to say, they will find a way to get it into their magazine or publication or forum. So take advantage of it. Have a generic template ready for any news that comes out. Try and send it on a regular schedule, because then you become basically the go-to for North Charleston, and that's what you want. Whenever something crafty is happening, you want them to get your perspective on it, even if it's outside of the industry. How businesses are doing, how a business that just moved into North Charleston is affecting smaller businesses. They want to talk to a variety of industries and personalities, and if you make yourself available that way, you will be the go-to. Okay. Content, you're already doing a great job with this. I think we can dial it in a little bit with, again, the variety of product and lifestyle, but video is very important. Be that creator and curator. Doesn't mean you have to create everything, but anything that you post needs to be reflective of your personality as a brand. And I was really impressed with all the Facebook posts and the videos that I've seen, especially during the pandemic. It was a really solid strategy. Whether you sat down at the beginning of this and said, hey, we just need to keep our fans and our friends connected, and this is how you do it, or if it happened more organically than that, good for you folks for keeping everybody in the loop. Your numbers are solid, which I have to ask, do you ever do any boosting? Do you ever put some money against posts that seem to be tracking pretty well?
So, yeah, I mean, yes, but not with any regularity. I don't think any of the videos that are showing currently have have had any boost. Most of that's just organic reach. There have been a few when we've had bigger events where there have been paid boosts, but as of late, And specifically the ones that we're looking at right now, no, that was all organic reach.
Well, those numbers are great. So obviously you have a good fan base. You've used hashtags really well, really strategically. I like using some more handles in there. So if you're able to get brand mentions in there, again, you're widening the reach of your post, and you're doing so in, behind the scenes, what you're doing, but it's natural. It feels good to reach out and support the community of brewers. And if you can do so in a organic way, then make it about the community. And at the same time, you're going to be getting more people looking at you as a result of that. So I think the videos are great. I guess I would just ask, why they're not on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Now, again, not being critical, but Twitter seems to point to Instagram. Instagram has some, but not all of the Facebook posts. And I didn't see a YouTube channel. These are all things that take time. So again, my caveat is I get it. However, again, audiences are looking at different social media channels. And so leverage it, be where they are. Syndicating content is not illegal, right? If you're using like a Hootsuite or any of these other free tools, Airtable, I like Sprout Social, but like you craft this one nugget that you want to share with everybody, and then these apps just spread it out in a way that's appropriate for each one of the channels. So in one post, you've essentially, magnified the message by 10. So,
and so Scott, let me ask something about that, because I know I've mentioned to Brittany, and I think she's looking at Hootsuite and Sprout Social. I thought Sprout was a paid service as well. You mentioned what, Airtable?
Airtable, yeah. I think that's a free one. I've used it before. It's a lot of these have free versions, and then it's kind of crippled that way.
Yeah. So the question is, in your work with smaller breweries, in a world of limited resources, in your experience, is the bang for the buck there? Is the ROI there in terms of driving metrics to provide return to the business, having greater impact on social channels, while also making, in this case, Brittany more effective and efficient? Is that worth the investment in a Hootsuite or a Sprout Social?
Yeah, I'll give you both sides of it, Pearce. I wholeheartedly believe that a tool like Sprout Social is worth it, only if you take the time to learn from it. Because a tool for syndicating posts doesn't make you smarter about what people are looking for. It doesn't inform you unless you're looking at it. Doesn't inform you what content is working and what's not working. I don't like tools like that when you're just looking to check the box. But if as an organization, you and the rest of the team would be open to having a monthly meeting, and a part of that meeting is Brittany presenting a dashboard report on how the socials worked. Here are the trending hashtags. Here's content that was trending from 20 other peers or competitors, and how we could position ourselves. Here's a hot style that we may not have thought of. Like, if you truly embrace it as the tool that it's meant to be, the money is more than well spent. But if you're just looking at it to syndicate content, it's only efficiency on Brittany's part.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
Yeah, I've got a certification in Hootsuite. It's something for the resume, but I went through all the classes to understand how to use it. And I also became certified in Sprout Social, and I found Sprout Social, albeit a little more expensive, it's more integrated from a business perspective. And to be able to to be able to connect your Google reviews and your Facebook store and all of the social channels, and to have those feeding into basically one view, one single view for the team on how social is pulling new customers. I mean, that's valuable for small breweries.
Okay.
If you folks, and we can talk about this later too, but if you folks ever want to just give it a trial run, just let me know. We'll get you set up.
Okay.
So use all these channels if you can. We like content calendars, and it just like a brew schedule where you know that 15th of the month you're going to be brewing the IPA as opposed to the Saison. Now, content calendar just keeps you honest. In that same meeting, you folks may talk about, well, here's what's happening this month. Let's make sure to message against it. We've got the event series. We've got the new beer release. We've got this relationship with Whole Foods. All of these things that are happening are messaging points. And if it's not on a calendar, then it's easy to prioritize them lower than the fire that's happening right now. So we like calendars. My plug for calendars, I guess. Content strategy, again, share it beyond Facebook. Play around with content. It doesn't have to be professional or polished. Have some fun with the brewers in the back and see how it plays. All of these things to say, take a minute every week when you're planning out your schedule to look at the previous week and how each one of these pulled. And then even if you're not playing scientist or mathematician, you know, wow, these are trending a little better than the others. So just be conscious of it. Prompt customer sharing, whether that's promotions or contests, and just have some fun with it. Getting into social specifically, this is no surprise. It's basically the personality conversation we were having. It's important for folks to know, especially new customers, that you're human, that you're real, that you're transparent, that you're fallible. Sometimes you have to dump a batch of beer, and that's not something to be proud of, and it's of course a loss, but including other people kind of behind the scenes, open kimono style, is not a bad thing if done appropriately. We really care about quality. This wasn't up to our standards, and so we had to dump it. You're going to get a lot of people who are like, oh, that's my favorite beer. I'm sorry you had to dump it. Oh, no, you know, all that beer wasted, or the fish are happy, or whatever they're going to say about it, but they're going to track with you, and that means something to them. I love your photos. I think they're rock solid. We've talked about the balance of kind of that staged product shot, which, I mean, the sandwich just makes me want to have lunch right now. But so great use of hashtags, great use of these photos. What I like about the lager and the 2 cages on the bike, it's like, yes, that is something that your folks are interested in, and that's something that they're going to gravitate towards. So you still get the effect of a product shot, but it's product in a lifestyle moment, which is perfect. I think we need more of that. I like the video. It surprised me that there weren't more videos posted to Instagram, only because you had so many posted to Facebook. Again, there's an efficiency there, especially with like a Sprout Social, because it will syndicate the content and format it appropriately for that channel. So you don't have to do a lot of reworking of the video. Content's the same, the hashtags are the same. This is just my plug for Sprout Social. Again, holistically, you want to listen. It manages publishing, it tracks engagement, and then it provides the really tight analytics. And you may not want to see it this way in this kind of graph, but you may. In any case, once a month isn't a bad schedule to review how social is pulling for you.
two questions there. Number one, so is it fair to say if you're picking between Hootsuite and Sprout Social for a small brewery, your plug is for Sprout Social?
Yeah, it works harder for you, Pearce.
Okay.
It's worth the money.
Yep. Okay. And then the second question is, where does one go for benchmarks in craft brewing for this? Like, so this is great. I don't know jack squat about what that means to me though. Like, okay, so I watch Facebook and I'm like, great. So we've gone from 5,000 to 7,000 likes. Wonderful. What does that mean to me as a business? And so, you know, the only thing I can do is go into the little Facebook piece we have now and say, okay, we have more likes than Two Blokes, or we have more likes than, you know, and that makes my ego feel good. But I don't like I can get financial benchmarks from the BA, you know, for different things. Are there benchmarks out there for like, or that would say, yeah, if you're here, that's doing good? Like, what is good, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. First off, I was sorry to have read about the passing of your friend Maddie. And did I read correctly that, is it your husband, is it Sean, who was in business with him before?
Yeah.
Is that the connection?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry about your loss. That was a really heartfelt post on socials. The answer to that, Pearce, is that there are standards and there are benchmarks, but the best benchmark is your peer group. And so what Sprout Social does, similar to Hootsuite, but again, I believe it's tighter in Sprout Social, it allows you to add 20 peers or competitors. And then just like it tracks your performance, it tracks their performance. Okay. And then it shows the context of how you're performing within that group. And
okay.
So,
that just made it worthwhile for me. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah. Well,
Pearce just needs a way to measure it. Yeah. That's all we need. We just need.
The bigger question is, how do you tie marketing to sales? And I get that. I feel like socially, and especially some of the work that Brittany has done more recently, is calls to action that are bringing people to the brewery. And so when you start to look back at the month's worth of messaging, you will see that your social is pulling people because they come in asking for what they saw on social. So from an individual brewery ROI perspective, I think the links are tighter now than ever before as to marketing spend versus return on investment. As far as you within your peer group, sometimes you just, sometimes you can use a benchmark and sometimes you can't. Who's to say that Two Blokes wasn't putting $1,000 a month against boosting their social? Some of those numbers might be inflated that way until you really know what they're pulling in new customer wise, which is all behind the scenes. Then it's really hard to say. But there are best practices and there are what you should expect. And from a growth perspective, if you're taking a look at last year and you've got this many followers on a particular channel, then you should say, I want a 20% gain this year. We're going to lose some, we're going to gain more. I want a net 20%. And then Brittany's efforts will always be keyed in on a monthly basis to reporting on how you're doing against that growth. I don't know that necessarily answers your question.
That does.
It's the start of a bigger conversation about analytics.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. All very possible, all very transparent in a tool like this. Do you have a couple more minutes after 2 o'clock? I know I'm kind of running close.
I've got to drop, but yeah, y'all keep going. I'll listen as long as I can.
All right. Well, we are really close. product and lifestyle, contests like Pay It Forward. I thought that was really appropriate and well done. We talked about handle mentions just to kind of gain access to other brands, audiences as well, where appropriate. Twitter, I think we can make Twitter work harder for us. I know it's an extra step, but Twitter is good for announcements in kind of real time, more so than Facebook and Instagram, in my opinion. So let's create some sense of urgency with our followers and not just use it as kind of a bookmark to get back to Instagram. And then behind the scenes with the brewers, just celebrate them. It's fun. People want to see that. Your storefront, again, I liked it. My only comment on Shopify this way is that it's not, your photos are beautiful, but it's different from your website. And I'm very sensitive to jumping between two brand experiences. And so to the extent that you can actually have a consistent online shopping experience with the rest of your store or the rest of your brewery, that just, you don't want people to have to think, oh, did I go to a different site? What's this all about? Search engines, you can optimize. When I do online beer sales, I want you folks to be at the top of that. You have it available. There's no reason why you shouldn't be in the top 10 results of a generic search like this. This is just another source of income, right? So try to get the search engines right, merchandising pages, show if the beer tenders feel comfortable, show them wearing one of the shirts, show them handing a beer out, like anything lifestyle that you can incorporate. I'm sure it's 20 or 30% more sales just in that regard because I can see myself wearing that shirt. I didn't know if you folks were integrated with your point of sale system. Can I ask, what are you folks using at the brewery?
We've arrived.
Oh, arrived, yeah, right on. I'm very familiar with that. Actually, they did a really good job during the pandemic, I think, with opening up new tools for online sales and curbside pickup and kind of choosing your own adventure that way. It's still a little rough.
I wish their online store is just, and online ordering capabilities is a little Mickey Mouse. And I feel like when you're talking about Shopify and having it all look like one site, unfortunately, Arrived just isn't there yet. I do love that it integrates directly with the point of sale, and especially when we're busy, it's really easy to have that just come in as an order. But, that has been besides a few functionality things that it took a little bit longer to add items when it comes to ordering food online and specializing and modifiers and stuff. But I love the idea of using that because it's so much easier from a reporting standpoint. It's so much easier for my team that is, working through those orders as they come in. But I just want the online presence and the look and feel to be just a little bit more elevated.
Yeah, well said. Unfortunately, in this one, they're always going to be behind. No matter if you're talking about Square or Toast or Arrived or whatever point of sale system, it will never be as advanced as some of the Shopify's and other plugins. So don't wait for Arrived. The experience on the front end is more important for now. You might have
Oh, you mentioned one that you a while ago, just kind of in the beginning with WordPress that you're more familiar with. Is it specifically just a certain plugin or? Oh,
well, we like WordPress just in general, but if you're talking about e-commerce, we like Ecwid, ECWID, and it's industry best practice. It's one of the leaders in WordPress e-commerce sites. $15 a month for 100 products. I've got it up on my test site. I'll send you the link to it. You can get a sample taste of it.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, the last one is just email, and you know this, but email isn't dead. I I see that you're using MailChimp, but I didn't register early enough to actually receive an email. MailChimp's the best practice, and if you folks are already using it, then you're already steps ahead of everybody else. You may be up to the 2,000 threshold for the free account. If you're paying for it, you know, obviously your tier of number of emails and sends per month goes up as you continue to pay. But for any small brewery that doesn't have a service, I always say MailChimp, start for free. Once you get past 2,000, then, you know, invest the $15 or $35 a month that it is.
I got to jump. Thank you, Scott. I'll catch up with you in a little bit, Brittany.
Pearce,
Sounds
thanks
good,
for
Pearce.
taking the time. Really nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm not sure if you have a regular schedule for newsletters, but what I would recommend if you do is archive those. It's news. Whatever is important enough to say by a newsletter is also important enough to put on your blog. And it also shows up as new content. Search engines love you for new content. Sample newsletter at sign up on the website. It's very clear, very easy to sign up, but put a little link there just showing them what they're in for. You can always cross promote it with social posts, and then if you end up doing a calendar kind of for the month, then planning this and planning the major topics that you're going to talk about in social and otherwise, use the newsletter to reiterate that. So that was it.
Cool.
I know I breezed through some of these areas, but social was an important one. So I wanted to double back and make sure that you got your questions answered. You feel more comfortable maybe about how you could move forward with putting a strategy in place if this is in your lap now.
Yeah, and it is definitely. I mean, as I explained in the email, I manage the tap house, so I do everything kind of front of house as far as managing a team of bartenders and food runners and kind of all of the ins and outs of the tap house management. And I've been doing that since January over here, or late January, early February. And then obviously with the shutdown happening, it's we had to kind of pivot. But yeah, social media has been something I didn't really take over during the pandemic, but started to work on and started to create more content. And now I've taken over totally for about the last, I guess, maybe a month now. It's been a month. It's basically solely in my hands. And I will tell you that this is something I did a couple years ago, actually, at Two Blokes. And when my husband and business partner started that, I ran everything front of house over there. So I ran everything. Actually, that was like 5 years ago that we opened. But yeah, so a lot of it for me now is getting back into it because I took a break for a couple years. So, and social media changes every day. So now it's like I'm learning and growing as I am trying to help, relaunch Commonhouse. And so this is all very helpful and good information for sure. And some of it I'm responsible for, but some of it is and stuff I had in my mind, but some of these things are also stuff I hadn't, taken time to really make a plan around yet. So, and like Pearce said, we're in this transition, we are exploring all options and investing more money in marketing. And it's just not, we want to really kind of take things and push it. So, so that's the goal. And now just kind of putting the wheels in motion to do it. So definitely taking opportunities like this to get some insight and then explore if there are some engagement options moving forward.
Well, that's awesome. And I think that the time was well spent from my side. I learned a lot about you folks and the brewery. I always love talking to brew folks, best people out
Yeah.
there. If any
Agreed.
of this is useful to you, if I can get you any tools to help you with your strategy for the next couple months, happy to do that. And obviously, if there's additional service that we could provide, I'm happy to do that as well. But the goal of these conversations is to learn more about each other and also just give you tools that you can run with immediately. So we hope we did that today.
No, absolutely. You sure did, for sure. I took a ton of notes, but I'm excited to have the deck to be able to refer back to as well. And yeah, we're just cruising and in this ever evolving, weird new world that seems to change daily what we have to figure out. But you know, it's interesting.
Well, hey, good luck. And
Thank you.
We're a resource here for you. What I'll do is I'll send you the link to the site that's using Equid, so you can see kind of firsthand what that e-commerce experience looks like. I'll send you a PDF of this. Also, Zoom records this, so I'm happy to send you the link to that if you want to share it with any of the other team members or reference something that we talked about. And then if it's okay with you, maybe after the 4th of July holiday, if it's convenient, I might follow up with you just to see if you, Pearce, and the rest of the team, if you have any questions or if you've made some decisions on transitioning pieces of the business, and there's an opportunity for us to help you with that.
Cool. Awesome. That sounds great.
Very good. Thanks for making the time for me today. Good conversation.
Yeah, no worries. And sorry about my weird computer that just kept not wanting me. Well, first it made me update Zoom, which I'm like, I feel like I have to do this every time I launch Zoom, which is like multiple times a week.
Yeah.
But eventually the internet played nice. So it was fine.
It's all good. Yeah. Good conversation for sure.
Great. Same here.
Make it a good rest of the week.
Hey, same to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.